At one point, the city of Chicago threatened to take it over by eminent domain. And the city of Chicago taken on the post office, not found a buyer. I'm pretty sure it would be demolished rather quickly. The city did not have the money to redo it or hang on to it for a long time. Fortunately, 601W Covers in Manhattan took this project on. And what did they do? We'll call it adaptive reuse. It's an office space. You probably told. Did you see the signs as we went by? Ferrari Candy, Uber, Chicago Metropolitan Planning Council, Chicago Board of Options. Sometimes newspaper has staff in there. The top of it is a huge green roof. One of my favorite things to tell you about the green roof, you know, it's just so important nowadays with all our climate control issues. But this green roof, I found out from 2 different passengers, has a beekeeper. Can you imagine a beekeeper on top of the old post office? So one of the passengers actually invited me up there to see it, which was kind of cool. So as you look at the post office, I have to say, I have another story real quickly. You have to look at it. But the top of it is also a sign suspended upon that area on top. They were filming the second to last Batman film was done in there. And the employees were over here to the new post office, but that one was empty for the filming. The sign they suspended on top said Gotham City Police. More passengers photographed that sign that summer than Sears Tower. They should have left it up, I think. Okay, here's the new post office. They marched across to their new digs in the mid-90s. This was the most automated. This is Knight Architects and Associates. It's not as pretty sign, it's reinforced concrete. The feds were asked to close the parking and they complied. You know, really a little hard pressed to say a whole lot about architecture. If you went inside, Knight Architects did a beautiful job. It's just exactly what it's supposed to be in a smaller space than the original post office. So the other feature I point out is we go by here. Can you see there's no public river walk? For security reasons, this is a federal building. We cannot meander here along the banks of the post office. A little bit south of the post office, though, and a little bit to the west, is the origin site of a horrible calamity that befell Chicago in 1871. You don't know what that was? Great Chicago Fire. Oh, hang on, everybody. They're not supposed to go that fast here. For what you can call a tiny wake for us. A little bit. Okay, so back to the post office. Because you're excited for the afternoon here. Look over my wife. Did you notice there's no public river walk? For security reasons, this is a federal building. We cannot meander along the banks here. A little bit south of the post office, then a little bit to the west, is the origin site of a horrible calamity that befell Chicago in 1871. You all know about the Great Chicago Fire? You know on whom it's blamed? This is O'Leary's cow, supposedly kicked over the lantern in the barn. Oh, yeah. Set the city afire. Don't get too caught up in that. Mayor Daley officially exonerated the cow. No less than city council. You probably wonder what we do in council here. The fire started in her barn, but we do not know what caused it. Sometimes when I have time on the tour, I say, on whom do you blame the Chicago fire? Wisconsin. The Irish. One year they were so mad at the Bears quarterback, they tried to put him in the mix. No, I don't think we'll ever know for sure. We do know what sits on the side of Mrs. O'Leary's barn today. This is so ironic. It's the training academy for the Chicago firemen and women. Oh, wow. Talk about a subliminal reminder when they get to class. Where is the fire academy? As soon as you get past this fence, 2 blocks over to the west. The reason I'm mentioning the Chicago fire, we're not a history tour, but everything we saw today downtown in that area, had there been structures on that land in 1871, it would have gone. That's the blaze jumped this branch and jumped the main branch. They never thought it would go over bodies of water. People were horrified that it was jumping bodies of water. They thought it was the second coming. We fled out here to Lake Michigan. They fled up to Lake Park. How could a fire go over water? As much as we fought the winds, I can tell you, along the banks here, there were cargo ships from Michigan and Wisconsin, and they had wood in their buildings. They were bringing lumber down here. Also, most of us would have lived in wooden blue frame shanties in those days. So all this kind of came together to have this fire go for 3¼ square miles in about 36 hours, give or take a little bit. But after that time period, as much as it was horrifically spreading to cause damage, about 17,500 structures burned. 300 people perished. It was 3¼ square miles, but just as quickly as it went, it started to rain and we went north and east to what we call Fullerton Parkway by Lincoln Park. That was not densely developed in 1871, so it became the fire and Chicago rose again. I have to say, 22 years later, we're hosting the World's Fair, so the windbags guys do this. So things went one way very quickly and then back the other way very quickly. So that's enough history for you all, but as you look to the right here before we turn, this is an old power plant. It's called the Union Station Power Plant for the trains, which are about 16 blocks long north behind here. And this was active till 2011. And what happened in 2011? In 2011, they deactivated this. Amtrak would like to demolish the building. They need parking. They need storage. There's a huge movement afoot by Preservation Chicago and others to to actually use some sort of an adaptive reuse and not tear the building down. We have to see what happens. Right now, neither has happened, so we'll see what happens. This is about as far south as we go by the Union Station power plant. As we make the turn, I'm going to focus on Willis.
Movie theaters
AKA
over
Sears.
here.
You might want to ready
Container
your
store
camera
used
against
to be
the
over there.
You know what was the
DSW is
My high
that
school's right
way.
down
So
the
look up
street.
here as we make the
Saint
turn.
Ignatius,
Very tall
yeah.
building, of course, is
And
Willis.
White House Grove,
AKA
where
Sears.
Melissa didn't
And
want
that
to
is our
have.
tallest building
Yeah,
at what?
White House Grove.
It's about
Yeah.
1,450 feet tall. You look at that building, how can it go to that height?
Movie theaters.
It's actually 9 buildings come together. Part of it goes to 50 stories. Some are set back at the 66th floor. If you go to the 90th level and the last, you go to 110. The analogy is made if you're holding 9 straws in your hand like this, or sticks. There's varying heights. Much more strength that way than if it were one solid mass.
We didn't go by Willis
we
Towers,
owe.
did we?
Within Skidmore.
I don't think we.
And Bangladesh
Oh,
born
yeah,
Dr.
that's
Foster
it.
Khan
Oh, okay, we coming up.
Is that the Sears?
and Bruce
Yeah,
Graham, the
Willis
architect,
Towers.
together.
It's not the
Not
Sears.
Sears
They're
Towers.
just
Is that
Willis
Sears?
Towers.
We're very lucky
Willis
to have
Never.
the skills
I
in Chicago
refuse to acknowledge
to build these
that.
buildings
That's,
that we
I
have
think that's
today.
what Khadija
So as we
said.
talk about the buildings that we're talking about in terms of height, this Sears Tower was its name when it opened in 1973. Sears lost, well, they moved a long time ago to Hoffman Estates. They kept the naming rights for a while, but right now Willis Watson is a British insurance broker. Willis Watson Tower is actually the official name. And they have the naming rights through 2025 through 2026, we've been told. So we'll have to keep an eye on it and see if it's, when we talk about it being in height in terms of the United States, we are now third. You all know we lost the title of One World Trade Center Tower in Manhattan. 1,776 feet tall. We're 1,450 or so. There's another one in New York City now on West 50. Oh my, New York was right in front of us. Let me pass you the mic. On West 57th called Central Park Tower. That's about 100 feet taller than Willis. So we're third in the United States. Where are we in the world? Between 19th and 25th. It's really, it depends on how you count. Tallest habitable story, roof line, antenna, spire, residential office. So there's lots of ways to count them. The tallest one that's finished, as you all know, the United Arab Emirates, the Burj Khalifa in Dubai, 2,700 feet tall.
Wow.
Okay, back to the right-hand side as we head up here. We get under Willis, we will talk about the ledge, the glassed-in bay where you walk out and feel you're standing on nothing. Did any of you do that yet? No?
Oh, I know.
Okay, so
It's all over
Okay,
TikTok.
we'll see that in a few
When
minutes
it
when we get under
reclines
there. Let's say
down.
that till we get there. But right now,
Did you
I'm
do
going
it?
back to what's on the right-hand
No.
side here. Does this remind you of the
If I'm
Corncop
put to
Towers?
sleep.
Mom's.
I know
This
you
is
do it
architect Bud
too.
Yeah.
Goldberg. It's 20 years later. This one's called River City. The other one is Marina City. And looking at this particular building,
We went in there one
park your
time.
car, your bus that goes to the cleaner, all these amenities to keep you downtown here. I think what's most fascinating about this one, bless you, it started out as 2 rental buildings. They sold them off as condos. Not that long ago, they bought out every condo owner. It's back to a rental building. And they redid this with the renovation. And of course, I'm sure it'll go back on as condos at some point in the future. So looking over here to the right,
There used to be a
I
health
also
club
like to
on the
mention
first
these boat slips when we have
floor
time.
level.
You see the boat slips? I'm marking these by saying if you get one of these boat slips, you'll have access to your vessel 12 months a year. Who wants to come out here in January?
Right.
Not very many. There's only one company that runs a little bit during the winter that I'm aware of. But the water under here is kept churning. It doesn't freeze. So for 12 months, you'd have access to your vessel. You could come down here, get electric heat or electric outlet. You could work on your boat with your power tools. You could live on it, I guess, with electric heat. That's what they're referencing when we talk here about River City. Okay, next to River City, this is what we call South Bank, the development altogether. Particularly looking over here to the right, Reed is the one that's right here at the bank of the river. Very new. This is done by Ralph Johnson. This is a condo building. When you look at this one, I have to tell you, I've seen these advertised now as rental spaces. Again, there's a housing shortages, so there's a lot of places. You're also allowed to rent in here instead of not buying one. Behind the Reed, you can see the double stacked townhouses there. And behind the townhouse, you can see a building goes out and up and angled up and out. That is called the Cooper. That's the rental building. There's all 3 types of residential spaces here. And then also South Bank did this public Riverwalk out front. They did the Riverwalk first. The city of Chicago asked them to do that first so we could have access as we walk along here. So we're obviously not going to get off the boat, but I am going to take our eyes along here and talk about a couple buildings downtown. So we head up here. So can you all see ahead to the right, a little bit over, you will see a building. Very much a deco building with an aluminum statue on top facing away from us. A pyramidal roof line, a very tall building up ahead to the right. Can you see? Yes, I can see it. Can you all see it? That is, of course, the Board of Trade. And who's the statue? She is Ceres, the goddess of greater agriculture, and she's atop the Board of Trade. And the building was the tallest building in Chicago. When it opened in 1930, it was the tallest building. I don't know, for a long time, but not served
In the
today.
middle.
Next to it on the back side is a 1980 postmodern edition. Can you see silver blue glass and another pyramidal roof, but not nearly as tall? That's a 1980 postmodern edition by the late Helmut Jahn, who's a Chicago architect. I have to tell you, He sadly lost his life. He was hit by a car when he was riding his bike a few years ago. He was way too young to die. That's his 1980 postmodern edition. A lot of experts, see if you're one of them, say it's a nice blending of old and new. The old deco, verticality, and the new postmodern. So again, you may or may not agree. Did anybody read Devil in the White City by Eric Larson? It's a wonderful read if you ever have time in your lives. It sees the fair through the eyes of Dan Burnham. I mentioned the book right now. Burnham was the chief of the architects. Burnham did that off-white Christopher Column building right next door to the Board of Trade's addition. He did that building. He did the northern end of that in 1910. Dan Burnham passed in 1912. That is one of his final commissions. I'd like to point out it's called the Insurance Exchange Building. If you did read Devil in the White City, want to talk about it, I'd be happy to do such when we disembark. We just don't really have time right now to cover that one. They're great. People are so creative when they name these buildings. There's a pinkish one, reinforced concrete. Silver is so lit up in the evening. It's been dubbed the White Castle Building and the Wedding Ring Building. So that building is a little bit more lit than the Willis right next door, which kind of gives you a clue where it is, but it kind of takes attention away from Willis next door. I got a new building that I added on, even though it's an old building, because you know what they did to this building a few years ago? They painted a map of the city of Chicago on the facade. Look right here to the right. See the narrow stripes? Those are the streets, and look at that wider spot. That's the river. And then look up, watch that rectangular red three-dimensional piece coming out at your eyesight up here. That's their building, where it sits along the river. I think that's so whimsical. And look up when we get to the bridge here, and look all the way up to 110 on Willis. Come down 7 stories to 103. Can you see those 5 glassed bays? That is the ledge. You can walk out there and feel like you're standing on nothing. You don't have to do that. Very solid observatory floor, if that's more to your liking. I will say to you that
yeah, that is so cool.
Oh, wait. Oh, how was it? Thumbs up? So we've got a couple people in the back that did the ledge. If you don't want to do the ledge, there's a very solid observatory floor if that's more to your liking. On the other hand, my favorite ledge story, I don't know if you guys did any tricks when you were up there. I had a young couple from France years ago. They went on the ledge and then they came on the boat tour and they passed their photo around. This was before iPhones. They had a real photo from when they were tourists up there. Both of them were doing a handstand on the ledge at the same time. I'm going to wave to you. Gonna wave to you, come by the two.
I can't even do it.
Just kidding, whatever pleases you. On the other hand, I want to quickly talk about the 2 buildings of the public observatories because we could not really see John Hancock or what we call 875 Michigan. So right here it's called Willis, aka Sears, tallest building in Chicago, the 3rd in the United States. About 70 elevators that kind of whisk you up. Most of the elevators are the lieutenants, about 70 each of the observatory. While you're waiting to get to the observatory, there's a little history museum at the bottom. Some restaurant history and some theater history. Get up to 103, the tallest elevator, so you can do the ledge or not do the ledge. The building is amazing. It has its own zip code. It's quite a fun site. On the other hand, I have passengers who prefer John Hancock, or what we now call 875 Michigan.
Oh, 875 Michigan.
We just saw the antenna in the distance. Remember on the North Branch? One advantage up there is they have, it's closer to where we get off the boat, but their observatories on 94. 95 and 96 used to be the signature room. If you listen to nothing else on this entire tour right now, please listen to this. The signature room suddenly closed 2 years ago. Nobody got any notice. The employees came to work. It was a very big financial deal with the restaurant, etc. So now there is no signature room. You can go up to the 94th, beautiful view. 95 and 96 were told or taken over by the management, the 94th floor. 95 will be an extension of the observatory, and 94 and 96 will be private events. There is a bar up there, but there's no restaurant called the Signature. Oh, people had their prom party there. They got engaged. It was quite a popular place in earlier years, not so today. Okay, back to the right. Look at this. This is Fujikawa Johnson Associates. One tower is 1983, the other 88. These are sawtooth to cut away. Do the bath.
Oh, that is so nice.
16 corner office on every floor. I remember Aaron Montgomery Ward's building. Nobody got a corner office. Here's the opposite. I'd love to get those 2 developers together. That's not going to happen. They have a very different philosophy. What's in the center here?
Building?
Used to be 2 trading floors. All the trading is done on Board of Trade. The Mercantile Exchange and the Board of Trade merged. On the CME as you look at the sign. So that's where the trading is done.
Yeah,
so looking at that, talking about the trading being done, I will say to you, the center section now belongs to BP, British Petroleum. They took that space over. Look at the sawtooth cutaway. If you look at the one on the north end, you see the little bridge under tower? Doesn't look like a spear, but inches of this postmodern coming. It's pretty impressive. So as you look here, and you look over to the right, you see another building it's flanked by two office towers. This is the old Civic Office building. My Graham Anderson Probst Point. Now, it's sawtooth or cut away, but these are office towers. And what's in the center? A theater. This actually is the Civic Opera of Chicago. Civic Opera's house today. This is done in 1929 by Graham Anderson Probst Point. Most of us call this deco. If you don't mind looking over here to the left, look at the old daily news we talked about on the way down. Look how they have very plain facade. That's definitely more traditional deco. Swing back to the right, if you will. Look at the comedy, the tragedy bands. Much more classical ornamentation. Two firms. Same city, same year, across the river from each other. Each one saw deco differently. The one on the right was done for Insel Thought. One running into the opera, one done.
Looks like it's from Ghostbusters.
This building is wild. Look at the
First opera like
Oh, yeah.
6 days. After this talk about her crash, hung on by
Remind me of the guy who was climbing the building.
There are tenants in the towers. The Lyric Opera of Chicago is housed in that building. Next door here is the Bank of America building, one of our newer high-rises.
Bank of
Some stories
America.
told us done by Jim Getch. This is what we call cantilevered. This office building kind of leans over the water. You see how it leans over the
Wow.
edge. Jim Getch did this building up here on the left, which is also cantilevered. Remember the one we were worried about toppling, not the Boeing building, the next one up. We're worried about toppling over. I have to tell you, they've been dubbed sibling buildings because they're by the same architect. This one is about 13 years old, 10, 12, 13, at least 11 or 12 now, 13. This is about 6 or 7 at the most. And they are actually both cantilevered and the same architect, so that's really dubbed every time. Sibling buildings were them. So coming in here and you look to the right, actually this building here, I skipped this building. I said that one summer when this pastor raised his hand, he said, "That's my office." I felt terrible. But next to his office is one we would never skip. This is Chicago School. The iron or steel skeleton holds up the structure. So you get much more of a glass curtain wall. This is a steel skeleton. Glass curtain wall's been redone. They're not original. But looking at this building, this is what the banks of the Chicago River look like a century ago. It's an old warehouse building. There are very few of these that survive. This was done by Halburn Roach. It's a Great Lakes building. Looking at it, you gotta forget this cute little beatnik bar with the ginkgo trees come right on the roof line. All the furnishings,
Nice.
the lights, forget all
That's
that.
where we're going,
Just
right?
look at this as a warehouse.
Oh, for real?
Banks
I think she said beatnik.
Halburn Roach did this one about 1912.
I could be wrong.
Okay, we're going to come back around and go down the main branch, focus on the right-hand side. And the first three structures, in honor of our New Yorkers, are all done by direct from Cohn, Pedersen, and Fox as we go around the corner.
That's where we're going to.
Mom, we're going there.
Oh.
Okay, the first building address sits behind the mustard-colored
Mom, we're
train
going to
bridge.
kayak there.
Dark
Y'all
tinted
are?
windows,
You are.
steel
No
bars.
plan.
Look up to the 37th floor.
You
That's what we
know.
call lantern box. We're on the
also a
37th
nice
floor.
place.
All
Oh,
glass,
wow.
really prettily lit, I should say, in the evening. 191 North Back was done about 2002. But on the site where the building sits and where the mustard-colored train bridge is, I want to go back and do a tiny bit of history if you can bear with me. They constructed a building there in 1860 in 5 weeks. It was 2 stories tall, and you know what? That is where Abe Lincoln received a Republican nomination for president. It's called the Wigwam. And the story goes when Lincoln won, he wasn't even here when he was nominated. The locals, which would have been us, were so happy that he was nominee because he'd been known here. He was Ogden's attorney. We were screaming so delightedly that Lincoln became the nominee. They shot off a cannon on the roof of the Wigwam. We could barely hear the cannon shots. So the Tribune wrote sounded like the Battle of Jericho or something when there was coming such loud noise from the attendees. So that's that site. There's nothing left today. There's a sign. That's about it. And right in front of us here, another Cohn, Pedersen, and Fox. This is Nuveen, or 333 West Rocker by Cohn, Pedersen, and Fox. This particular building was done about 1983. And looking at this, what do we call this? Contextualism. It's that sub-style of postmodern. And I want to address the Riverwalk out here where you see people walking. We're so proud of it. It did not come easily. We're not like Manhattan. We don't have bedrock and surface. Even for something as skinny as a sidewalk, got to get some pilings in and hold that very firmly. So as you look at that here, we see it following along here. Have you ever been here since the pandemic? A lot of this setup was done during the pandemic, so it's kind of new. It goes all the way down to Lake Street today. So as we come beneath here now on the right, you look up. 225 West Viker with the gray granite sheathing is a third Cohn, Pedersen, Fox. That New York form is 3 in a row on the main branch of our river. The gray granite sheathing takes you up to sort of futuristic towers rising out of the roof line. See those futuristic towers? Those are thought to be postmodern tribute. If you want to glance to your left, there's the merchandise mart that we talked about on the way down. Look, those towers are somewhere pyramidal. The newer building on our right is paying a tribute to some older neighbor in the other bank. And again, not everybody agrees with all these postmodern references. So you come beneath this bridge, we're going to see a building that has a section that's older and a section that's newer, and they're nicely blended together. It's called the Builders Building. The first portion that you'll notice, look up ahead of us,